what are we going to do today? Well, today I will do the first episode where I'm running you through my workflow, so how I'm working, how I'm creating music. And primarily today is all about Logic, so how I'm working with Logic. So as a disclaimer, just very important, I'm not a Logic Pro or expert or something, and this is more like about the tweaks that I'm doing and how I'm using that, how I build my own workflow, how I feel comfortable with. But if you need good information or any deep insights, there are loads of good channels, which, by the way, also I'm using, of course. So yeah, but I would say let's jump into it. So today I'm going to show you how I set up a music project. So we are, of course, looking at another day. So the actual release we are looking into. And today we're looking into the pre-production. So this one is not sounding as the final result, because actually Daniel did his production onto that song and Benny did the mixing and mastering. So this is the pre-production version. And by the way, for those who want to listen into the pre-production versions, they are even on my Patreon. So might be a chance to sneak in there. All right, but then let's switch the screen, and here we are. I already opened up the project, of course, and what you see here is, so the thing is, when I'm creating music, of course, it might be a riff idea, there might be something, but I always need a nice drums underneath it. Of course, in this project, there are already Mike's drums in. The pre-production versions are already mixed with Mike's real drums. But of course, I have here, and we can also have a sneak into that, right? So the old programmed drums, that's primarily how it sounded in the old programmed drums. Yeah, it's a little different, right? So if we go here, for example, so I unsolo it. And what you see here is then usually I have here a dry and a wet section. So I'm organizing everything in folders because that makes it a little easier. And for those of you who know a little Logic, so these are some folders, so I can do a mix of a section like the drums or like the Moog or the keyboards, primarily here with the stock plugins, etc., or the guitars, vocals. So I can mix this and then have it in a sum, and can then also do like the loudness between each of the tracks. So that's how I'm primarily grouping it. And then we're having here the wet drums. So I think it's always more fun to listen to the wet drums because they have a little more punch, etc., right? So if we compare that again, wait a second, let me just have this here. I think this part is really interesting. So pretty robotic, right? And what I really love with Mike's playing is like how he's also using the snare and all that stuff. Nice, isn't it? And that's also one fun part. Let's go into the, I think that's the snare. There you see like how he's like playing also with the snare and bringing more dynamics into it. And the snare is primarily a little bit like also supporting the bass drum. See, so that's that. Exactly. So that's a little bit like how it sounds like. So these are the drums, and of course the thing is, like when I'm mixing, I also put really moderately effects into it. But we will have another video where I show you the difference between production and pre-production, what we are looking here now at, and the actual production itself. Because for the production, I'm just getting rid of everything. I'm building a project alternative in Logic, and there are no folders anymore. There are no effects at all anymore because everything goes totally clean. Apart from if there's an effect that is relevant for the sound, then okay, but that happens only sometimes that I leave them in. But in general, everything goes out very clean. So just the tracks, just some of audio tracks. So then here's one interesting piece. So there's nothing on that. So this is a track which only controls the synthesizer. So the Subsequent 25 is able, or there's a software and it's an analog synthesizer, but I can also store sounds, and that's what I'm doing here, right? So for the different, here for Despair Frantic, My Fight Begins, etc. That's an old song name I have in here. This is a different song now, so it's called differently. But here I have like all the different sounds, and I can also, wait a second, give you a glimpse into that. Let's go to this screen. Okay. And then I am just take bass sound. I think I used a little less reverb then. Exactly. So, meaning that primarily this track is only so that the computer and logic is connected to the synthesizer, and if I dial in a sound, then I can also store the sound. However, what usually happens is that I never use the same sounds totally equally in the songs. It might happen now and then, but usually I'm tweaking them a little bit so that it gets really nice into the whole soundscape. All right. Then I think this is just any kind of track. I think I can even delete that. And then we have primarily the Moog synthesizer. And as you see here, I have the MIDI tracks and then the audios. For the production, then all the MIDI goes away. It's only audio in the end. And primarily, I'm then recording that into an audio track. So why am I not playing directly in there? So one thing is, of course, I'm not the best, keyboarder. So I learned that years ago. I had piano lessons and stuff when I was young, but I'm, let's say, medium okayish, sort of like. So of course I have to do a little bit quantizing. But the other thing is, since this is an analog synthesizer, I can dial in filters and all that stuff. So that's what I'm recording that into MIDI. Sometimes I'm then even recording some effects in, and then I do the audio recording into that track. And maybe I can also give you a short look at how that looks like. So for example, if we have, it's just dialing something in. So what I, for example, can do if I have like a sequence like don't blame me for the wrong note here. So I'm not warmed up. I think that's what most people say, right? But you see, I can tweak the tone by enabling the filter or so there are many different things. So usually I'm primarily using the envelope filter to shape the sound throughout the song. So primarily, for example, if it's like a more normal rhythmic part, then if it gets heavier, I can crank it up. So that was, with this sound, it's just like a little bit of dialing in, and just that you understand a little bit the procedure. All right, so this is the synth section. By the way, I also have in here a keys section with, but this is, so you won't see these much in later songs because I primarily got the Moog synthesizer while I already had created Another Day. So I only have certain parts in another day that I played with the analog synthesizer, but primarily in later songs I think there's no stock synths at all anymore. Additionally, in the production, Daniel has recreated the main synths from the stock synths with another analog synthesizer. So yes, so that's the key section. There's also some choirs in there. Maybe those who are interested. So for choirs and stuff, I'm using I think it's the originals from the epic choirs from Spitfire. I have one song and also an intro, which is with a big orchestral layering. So there's where I use I think BBC Orchestra from Spitfire. So really neat plugins. I really love them. So then, of course, we have the guitars in the next section. So first of all, the rhythm guitars. My setup here is that I have an Engel E530 and I have a PL1. And meaning that when I record one guitar, I always have two tracks that I'm recording, because I have the guitar goes into a splitter. No, not into a splitter, but it goes into a splitter, and then one guitar signal is fed into the Engel 530 as well as the PL1. And by the way, also, and that was a lot of testing, I'm using the Engel 530 with the frequency compensated output, which is, for those who don't know about these things, so this is primarily a speaker emulation where it's emulating sort of like a big guitar box where the sound comes out. But it's a simulation, but for industrial metal, I kind of thought this is really neat. It really sounds exactly how I want to have it. Because also industrial metal is a little bit, you have synthesizers in the background of the guitars and stuff. So it's anyhow a little bit more, it's not that tube based, it's more sharpened out, so to say. And then I have a couple of additional guitars. So this is usually when the sound should get really boom, like this wall of sound when you want to achieve that. So I'm then layering additional guitars, playing it an octave higher, maybe a quint higher, or then even 2 octaves or something. And sometimes I also have certain lead elements. I think we have that here as well. I'm not sure about that. Let's see. A little bit of like, so it's a lot of layering primarily that is going on then to really achieve this wall of sound. Then, of course, we have I have separated male and female vocals. So this is my vocals here. And there's not that much special with that primarily. So here I have a couple of effects, just because if I'm doing a mix, I want to have a little bit of reverb in there. So I'm using the Lexicon reverb. I'm using the CLA Epic plugin, some channel EQs, and the Empire Distressor, but primarily on the group, right? So I'm not doing each and every vocal thingy, but that's only for my own pleasure. And I said, on Patreon, you could even listen to pre-production tracks. So, okay, and this is then the vocals. And I think there's really not that much into it, apart from maybe one thing. And that's what we are having here. So that's a very special sound that you hear there. And this, even with the production that Daniel did with the saturation and stuff, it even comes more out. But there's a little bit of an effect in that, but it's not a effect plugin or something. It's pure vocals. So first of all, maybe I can first solo this.
The sturdy of time, crawling inside me.
So first of all, on these, so these are the ones here. These are, I called them male vocals FX, so because there's effects in there. And I think in this one, wait a second, the doubler DSLC6, no, it's still normal. Then I have here one, and this is like a pretty interesting and neat thing that you can try. And in the next song, when we go through that, you can see that also that I'm doing that with synthesizers, and it brings a really nice effect in. I took the same thing here and turned it backwards. So, comma. So it's just turned backwards. Sounds a little weird, and I have a delay on that, but just the standard tape delay, nothing special, right? So that's really, it's even a stock delay, so really nothing special, because it's only about this effect. And then if you listen to that whole thing again, then this is the effect that comes out. So it's more psychoacoustic, but it brings a little bit more like a more, maybe it's saturated or a fatter sound in the end. So also in further videos, what we will also bring in, so but Daniel did that in a production also for this song, that you put vocoder effects in, but I'm also using vocoder effects in other songs, sometimes quite heavily, and I even have one song where I have that in the middle part where the vocoder effect even is even the main vocals, but that's a very specific reason. But that's something we will look at in, oh my gosh, I think maybe 8-9 months. I think it's September, October or something when we're going to talk about that song. Exactly. Then the female vocals, and also here, so that the additional atmosphere that we bring in with Steffi's vocals. So what I primarily have done is that we recorded a couple of vocals. So usually we have minimum 2 tracks. Also what you saw up here for my vocals, it's always 2 tracks. And I'm sometimes using even different vocal temperatures, or how I'm creating the sound. So when I have like, it could be that there's a more whisper in there, could be that I'm growling, and then adding then a little bit more cleaner voice on top. Or if I have a scream, that I also bring a little bit of a deeper, maybe growling sound in there. But for the female vocals, to get this atmosphere, what we've done, we've recorded the vocals multiple times, and then have one center, one left, one right, etc. And that really for each and every section in the end. So that's how we did that. And also, like, we have them a little lower sung, then higher sung, high, center, etc. So that's like how this all comes together. Exactly. But now I also have one concrete topic that I have to do, because I wanted to create a new template. And that's what I can show you now, how I'm creating a template. And there's one very important step that maybe I filter that also out at a short or something, because that's one very important step when you're working together with other musicians. But let me do that. I'm just now saving that first as a ESG recording. Let me check real quick if I have recording. It's BMSG00. I'm overwriting the old template that I have. I want to overwrite it. And then since this is also, I have like, the guitars are finely shaped. So I have nice, for pre-production, some nice effects in. What I'm now doing is I'm deleting everything, because, and now we have to get the freeze out, because I'm deleting everything, and then I also have to delete the tracks that are still lying in the project. I think I have to do it again because of the freeze. Yes, I will delete. Now it's gone. Because the thing is that the project would get too big, and as a template, I don't want to have a big project, right? So now I'm getting into this mode, and where's it? Project. Come on, take it. And then we are taking all the non-used tracks, which is now really each and every track has a deleted in the temporary project, now everything, and we're getting rid of that. Now, if we look at the file, the old one, Burn My Shallow Ground, was 8.94 gigabytes. But that's not only the project we looked at, because there's also project alternatives in there for the production, which we look somewhere in there. And this now is 8.70 gigabytes. That shouldn't be. Or maybe that has to calculate then again. We look later on to that again. Exactly. Then one thing what we can do is, we primarily, I don't need this whole section anymore. The electro keys, I'm just deleting that. because the Moog is totally fine. Exactly. And now we have a nice and clean setup. The old guitars I can also throw out. Perfect. That's it. Let's get that again. That's fine. And then I am saving that. Wait, I have that. I have. Now I first remove all the project alternatives because I also don't want to have the alternatives in there. So we only need the master version. So this is master, so I'm deleting that. Well, we could keep. No, we don't keep a production version. That's what I'm doing then. That's fine, like that. And then we are saving that as a template. And here I had the naming convention that I primarily just put a new date in. 5, today is Jan 27. The TMP is for template. Save. But now we have the template created, and then in March, April or something, when I do the next songs, then I will also go into that. By the way, maybe one important remark, what you should always do. By the way, also one thing is when you export something, when you work together and collaborate with colleagues, you should always switch this off while exporting. So now what happens if you export and you switch this off? Usually a Logic project, oh see, there's even further old stuff in here. I didn't see that, so we have to override this here again. Interesting. Okay. So what you usually have is that the Logic project is very long when you set it up. So if you have finalized the song or in between, always put this marker here. That's the actual project length, as short as possible, or just like that you have the end of the song, and that's fine. Because when you export, you also want to export without the marker here. Otherwise, it starts at the position. If you would do like that, and then you are exporting and you have the marker on, then it would export from here to here. And to have really, when you send back and forth WAV files, then you always want every WAV file to be in sync. So that's why you're best doing that. Now, one thing that happens, so I had it just recently with a drummer that he said, hey, and here this is like at 1 minute 28 and 420 seconds or something. And I opened the file and I thought like, shit, what's happening here? As you see here, it says 1:07:21:56 from the timing perspective. So now I just can't get really to 422 or something, right? And this is very important, and that's also why we have to save the project again, because I missed that step, even though I had it in my mind. You have to go to project settings and then synchronization. And here's one important thing, SMPTE offset. If you activate that, you see that all of a sudden the project starts at 0, and now you're perfect to change files with other people. So great, isn't it? So then we are saving that as a template again and set up nicely. And I think that was a little bit like at least the flow. So next time I'm going to show you the difference between pre-production and production. So we go into another day again and I show you a little bit like the differences, right? And of course the master, which you anyhow can already listen on Spotify and everywhere else. But yeah, that was it. Thanks very much. And now the weird thingy comes. So if you like this video, if you like to follow the journey, if you like getting a little like insights, how I'm working and stuff, then yeah, just hit a like or give me a like, and also maybe subscribe to the channel. So because that's what in the end, gives like also additional, it shows YouTube that people like that stuff, right? So next time we are looking into, so we have a couple of things, or I'm going to show you with another day a couple of things, because one thing is then also what I said before, difference between pre-production and production, or production and master. And the next thing is that I'm also getting you the information how I'm creating music videos, because that's also what's coming out soon, right? So stay tuned. Cheers.